Hello, this is the blog Q&A video for Religious Studies 100, the New Testament. I've compiled a list of questions that you all have submitted on the Google form for this week, and I've broken these up into categories of general questions and then the questions for each of the type of blog post. I'll go through these, but make sure that you're reading the guidelines for the blog. Just like with the research paper Q&A, I noticed that a lot of these questions are very clearly answered in the guidelines, so make sure that you're reading those thoroughly. So for general questions, I do have some that are fairly specific. So if these are your questions and you still have concerns after this, feel free to reach out. Just kind of in general, for a difficult time selecting topics, for this class, you'll want to make sure that it focuses on the New Testament text. So this is not just Christianity as a whole, but specifically the New Testament time period and scriptures. If you're having a difficult time finding books or movies to discuss this, current events, or misconceptions, then feel free to email me and I'm happy to help you out there. How do I not misinterpret the writing set before me or the blogs, movies, etc. that I evaluate? So if you're doing a misconceptions or misinterpretation post, or current events, really any of these, and you're concerned about misinterpreting the New Testament, I would recommend using the course textbook for whatever passages you're looking at. So for example, if you're talking about women's roles in ministry in the New Testament and how this is a misinterpretation, for example, many people will say that the New Testament says women cannot have roles in ministry. And there's a lot of passages in the New Testament where women do have these roles, even in the first century. So to look into these texts, use the New Oxford Annotated Bible. The footnotes there should give you a good start on what actually understanding this text would be like. For reading it correctly, each blog has 3 different parts. Not all of them. So the current events blog will have 3 parts. The other 2 only have 2 parts. So each blog is essentially going to have you analyze either a misconception, a current event, or a book or movie. So these are going to have different parts within them. On the misconceptions, you're going to explain what the misconception or misinterpretation is and how to properly understand it. And then after this, you're going to analyze why you think the misinterpretation or misconception exists, what harm it does, how understanding the reality of it can be helpful for Americans, since that's kind of the point we're looking at. For current events, this is going to be a summary of the article, and then you're going to analyze the way religion functions in the article. And then after this, you'll evaluate how this affects our understanding of religion and its role in America. And these will all be specifically focused on the New Testament. As far as specific formats, making sure that you're doing the different sections for each. So if you're doing a misinterpretation or misconception, that you're analyzing what the misconception is, and then explaining what harm it does, why you think it exists, and so on. As far as other formatting, just make sure that you're including the bibliographic entry when required. You can cite it in APA, MLA, or Chicago style. Just make sure that you're actually citing any sources you used. Does each blog have to be about one of these: misconception, misinterpretation, current event, or media analysis? Or does part of the blog need to be a different one? No, so you've got 3 total blog posts, and each blog should completely focus on either a misconception, misinterpretation, or a current event, or a book, movie, media analysis. You shouldn't jump into different categories for each blog post. Someone's concerned that they're not going to do good or well on a blog post. This is why I have opportunities for you to do more blog posts and drop a grade. So if you're worried that you're not going to do well on a blog post, first, do your best work. read the directions, and email me if you're concerned about this. But if you don't get the grade that you're hoping for, you're welcome to submit another blog post and I'll drop your lowest grade from those. How will we know if our blog posts are correct? So there's a rubric on Blackboard, and this is what I will be grading your blog post based on. Once you submit a blog post, I'll usually get it graded within a week or 2 weeks after it's submitted. So if you start early, you'll have more opportunity for time between your blog posts. So if you want to submit your first blog post and then get feedback on that so you know what to do moving forward, that might be helpful for you. Are these blog posts mainly opinion-based with evidence from the articles? In a lot of ways, yes. So what I'm looking for you all to do here is kind of break out of this research focus that we typically have in the class and think how the New Testament functions in the United States of America today. So what ways do we see the New Testament pop up in society and culture and popular culture and politics and government and so on? There's so many ways that the New Testament functions. So consider how you see it. And these might be things that maybe you see when you're scrolling through social media or watching on the news, or maybe a movie that you just saw. So I'm interested in how you interact with the New Testament every day, kind of without realizing it. And this is the point that I want you to start with in these blog posts. Can each of the blogs be submitted in any order, or is there a specific order we must do them in? And I had several questions asking the same thing. No, you can do these in whatever order. So if you want to start with misconceptions and then do a current event post and then do the book media or book movie media evaluation, you can do that order. If you'd rather start with the media evaluation and then do misconception and then current event, you can do that. Any order is fine. Just make sure that you only have one of each category if you're only writing 3. If you decide to write more to drop the lowest grades, then you need at least one of each category represented. Would the civil wars in the Middle East be a good topic to discuss, as the Bible does say in these times that Israel will be in great turmoil? If you want to talk about specific topics, you can email me about this. This topic I don't think would be relevant to the New Testament. There's not really a discussion. I'm not sure what you mean by in these times. So the New Testament is focused on the 1st and 2nd century CE. So a focus on the 21st century doesn't really apply. Now, if you want to talk about how people discuss wars in the Middle East as a reflection of the New Testament, that might be something we can consider, but make sure you contact me about that and we can discuss it. If we post the extra blogs for grades to be dropped, what categories do we use for those blogs since they can't be the same ones? I am fine. So your main 3 need to be different. So current event, misconception, and a media evaluation. If you decide to do more blog posts, then they can be from any category. So if you end up with 3 misconceptions, 1 current event, and 1 media evaluation, that's fine. I just want to make sure that those 3 categories are represented. When are the blogs due and when should they be completed? This is on the syllabus and in the guidelines. So your 3 blog posts are due on November 1st, November 8th, and November 15th by noon, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I would strongly recommend that you do them ahead of time. So rather than waiting till the last minute, consider working on these now. Ideally, you would be working on these all semester and thinking of things that you see on the internet, on the news, wherever. But I have due dates to make sure that they do get completed in a timely manner. So I would recommend you start on them now. Maybe you already have ideas of what you want to write about. And even if you're kind of just drafting it at this point, the sooner you get these done, the less you have on your plate when you get to the final research paper time. In total, our blog posts need to be at least 300 words. The examples of 100, 150 words, etc. tripped me up, so wanting to confirm. Yes, so the blog post should be between 300 and 600 words long. I have the examples of 100 to 150 words in different parts just to explain about how much of each blog post should be devoted to what specific part. So for example, in the misconceptions, 150 to 300 words of it, which is half, should be focused on addressing what the misconception or misinterpretation is and explaining how to properly understand it. The other half, which is also 150 to 300 words, is analyzing the misconception, the harm it does, etc. So in total, you're going to be looking at 300 to 600 words. You can find this breakdown for current events and for the book movie media evaluations as well. As the semester continues, will you remind us to complete the blogs at a certain date, or should we go ahead and start completing the blogs now to have them out of the way? Sometimes I remind you all of due dates when I'm grading, or if I think it's a really important one to remember, such as your final paper date. But generally, I'm not going to email you to remind you to do your work. That's why I have the syllabus. That's why Blackboard has due dates listed on there. So yes, I would recommend kind of keeping up with that and doing it ahead of time. But keep track of your due dates. I would make a calendar for yourself if you have trouble with that. Do the blogs have to only cover parts of the New Testament that we have gone over, or can we pick from the whole New Testament? You're welcome to talk about anything in the New Testament. So we are reading the entire New Testament, but there's obviously parts that we're focusing on more than others. If there's a part that we have or have not gone over that you really want to focus on, either of those is fine. If you're struggling to understand a section that we haven't discussed fully though, then again, feel free to email me and we can talk about that. What key points do you want us to discuss in the blogs, and does this vary with each chapter? I'm a little confused by this one. So we don't really have chapters for the blogs, and there's not really key points. There's certain kind of ideas or categories that you need to be able to address. So the breakdown that I mentioned earlier of how many words should be focused on what, you'll want to do that, but otherwise there's not anything specific you have to address. Is bibliography the same as a reference? Yes. So if you are writing an APA, they're usually called bibliographies. APA calls them references. Chicago style uses bibliography or bibliographies. MLA calls them works cited. Any of these terms refer to citing a source that you use to compile your research, or refer to when you're writing or talking about something that's not your own original thought. So a few specific questions. Someone asked about misconceptions and misinterpretations. What does it mean by misinterpretations of the Bible? How do I know if it is talking about the New Testament when it could be talking about the Bible as a whole, or even just Christianity as a whole? So this really just depends on what misinterpretation you're going with. So I earlier mentioned women ministry and Christianity. This is obviously kind of a misinterpretation that encompasses all of Christianity, but you're going to take the focus and focus it on the New Testament and see what passages do people misinterpret to talk about how women cannot have roles in ministry, and then look through the historical context of that to kind of refute that claim. You'll find a lot of these, and this is why I use misinterpretations rather than misconceptions for my New Testament and Old Testament Hebrew Bible class, is you'll find that a lot of these are less misconceptions than they are just misinterpretations. So people have ideas based on how they've interpreted the Bible, but those are often based on Latin translations, English translations, and don't really go back to the original text. Are there any topics that are off limits for the misconceptions blog post? As long as your focus of your blog post is non-confessional, then you're good to go. If you're concerned about a topic, then again, feel free to email me, but otherwise you should be fine here. Make sure that whatever research you're pulling in is non-confessional, reliable scholarly research. So I don't want to see that you're finding websites that are explicitly confessional, talking about misconceptions or misinterpretations that are kind of off the rails. So if you're concerned about that, let me know, but otherwise there's no off-limit categories. For current events, the blog states 3 different word counts. Does this mean the length of the blog can be any of those 3 word counts? So this is what I talked about earlier with the misconceptions. There's 3 different parts to the current events blog post, and each part should be within these word counts. So the first part is summarizing the article, podcast, etc., and explaining how religion plays a role in the current event. And this is 50 to 150 words. The second part should analyze the way that religion is functioning in the event or medium, and this is 150 to 200 words. And then the third part is evaluating the current event and how it affects our understanding of the New Testament and its role in America. And this is going to be 150 to 250 words. Finally, when we say fictional movie, would movies that depict Christ tell the story of Christ count? For example, Passion of the Christ. Yes. So anything that's not, say, like a documentary, even if it's historical fiction or a fictional retelling of some story in the New Testament, anything like that is fine. I just don't want you all to be looking at documentaries and kind of evaluating these, because this doesn't really get to the point of what the role of religion is in media today. If you have any more questions that were not covered here, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, good luck with the blog post, and let me know if you have any issues along the way.